This is Brook Drumm with Printrbot, and I'm going to show you our new upgrade kit for the Plus, the Printrbot Plus, the 8 by 8 inch heated bed. Came stock without any bed leveling, and you can get this level. There's a lot of people that choose to put glass on the top and then Kapton tape on top of that, and you can clip it down. You can put Kapton tape right on the bed and just screw it down. We drill out these holes to 632 size, or if you have M3 metric like 8 or 10 millimeter screws, you can just bolt that down to the bed. But I've found that, man, you know what, it would be nice to be able to raise this bed up and to level it on a 3-point leveling system. So that's what we've got here. This is going for sale tomorrow, so we're going to put this in, but I wanted to show you how to put it all together. So here's what comes in the pack. These are my tools, obviously, but I wanted to lay out the tools that you'll need. And we've got 6 number 6 washers. We've got 3 springs, and you can actually just use the springs that you have. If you've already got, well, most of you don't have springs. If you've got a junior, you have springs, I guess, but we're going to put 3 small springs in, 6 of these number 6 washers, and they're going to, the 3 thumb screws here go with 1 1/4 inch, 3 1/4 inch. We're first going to get a little lock washer, number 6 lock washer on these screws. They're going to go up through the bed and then go through that sequence, and then the thumb screw will be last. Then these thumb screws come in 2 parts. You break them apart, and then with your glue, just a little dab of glue, and they glue together. Then you can put the hex, press it into the top, and use the long 1 1/4 inch screws, zip them down with like a screwdriver, and it'll sink that nut down to the bottom of that recess hole. So I've gone to the trouble of going ahead and gluing these thumb screws together. So aside from those parts, we've also got 4 for now. You might want to just lock down the bed without glass with some 8 millimeter M3 screws. And that's a really tight fit, so I'll show you a little trick to get those to work with 4 metric M3 hex nuts. Okay, we've got a zip tie here because I did have to cut the zip tie that I had securing this. Some people put this particular bot, this is an old bot from the bot farm, and some people put down cardboard as a way to raise the bed a little bit. We won't necessarily use that. But once you get it apart, the first thing that you need to do is drill some new holes. Now, I've got a bit here. I'll tell you what I'm using. I've got it on millimeters, and so this is 3.4 millimeters. In inches, that's 0.1355 inches, or oh man, what is that? 17 1/28. That's not helpful. But anyway, so we've got about a 3.4 millimeter screw, and I like that to be a little bigger than these screws. This is 3.35. That way it'll, you know, move up and down in the hole real nice. You could make it tight on the holes that we're going to drill, but I like to have a little breathing room. So the first thing you'll do, you chuck up your drill and drill these 3 new holes. Now, how do you know you're aligning them right? Well, we're going to move all the way to the front of the bed. We're going to lay that across the front of the bed where it's flush on the front, because our thumb screws are going to be right here on top, and we want it all the way to the front flush. So I'm just going to hold this down and drill my new screw holes. The new screw holes are here, here, and the one centered in the back. You'll see me do all of them. Just to hold that in place temporarily here, I'm going to put that screw in there, check it for flush, hold it tight. This is a really dull drill bit. Again, that's just to hold it. Flip it around here. Drill the one in the back. Alright, with my new holes drilled, I'm going to get my lock washer on one of my 1 1/4 632 screws. That holds it in place pretty good. Initially you may have to hold it with a screwdriver to get it tight, but for now this should work. I'm going to come up through that new screw hole, and then I'm going to thread. What I like to do is put a washer on, then the spring, then another washer. And that's because we actually right now we're kind of using some longer springs and cutting them down, and it's annoying to have that little barb be in the way, so we want this to run nice and flat. Alright, and then we grab a thumb screw. I've already sunk that down and glued these together like I said. Now we've got 1 1/4, 1 1/2 would work. Now you'll notice until you get that tight, I'm not even using a screwdriver yet, until that gets tight and starts digging into the wood on the bottom, you may need to hold that bottom with the screwdriver. You could even like super glue it down and forget the lock washer, but for now that's going to work just fine for purpose of demoing in here. We may actually switch those lock washers out with something that has a little more bite. Make sure you clear the wood. You know, sometimes when you drill, you press through the wood enough to where it creates some splinters. If you get it nice and flat, it'll bite better on this lock washer. So we're going to go up through. We got lock washer, 1 1/4. We're going to go with number 6 washer, the spring, another washer, keep that from digging into the wood, and that is it. Now I'm going to get this other side, since they're two equal, I mean here at the front, they're both at the front, so I'm going to do them at the same time. Inch and a quarter, 632. Number 6 washer. Whoops, already forgot my lock washer. Lock washer on there first. Then up. Washer, spring. Number 6 washer. There you go. Now, the bed, like I said, you're going to. Here, let me pop this off and show you one more thing. Yes, I'm backtracking, but live with it, people. All right, so I will want to attach my bed before I put that down, and it's such that you put the wires through the hole, okay, and then we're going to align these holes. They're set up perfectly to go flush on the side. And how do I get these? How am I going to get these? They're only 8 millimeters long, and it doesn't appear to come through very well, does it? Right there, it doesn't, just barely comes through. So what I like to do is do a countersink with a larger drill bit. I'll show you how that works. And the reason we're keeping these screws nice and short is because there's not a lot of clearance in between here. So I'm going to chuck up my larger. Now here's the trick. Put it on reverse. And you've got the bottom of the board. I'll illustrate it here. And you just run it in reverse, pressing down pretty hard. If you run it forward, you're going to screw it up because it'll dig right down through that wood. Creates this nice little countersink. And that nut, that little M3 nut, will very nicely seat into that recessed hole, give you a nice little bit of grip. Alright. So now watch how nicely this goes in there. Now we've got enough meat there on that nut. Now it's perfect. Alright, so I'm going to do the other 4. Should have done this first, but hey. I'm just going to do this hand tight for now, and then I'm going to go and cinch it down nice and tight, snug. Just 2 of them done. Another one done. And the last one. Alright, I'm going to use my Allen wrench. Even though this is called an M3 nut, it's a 2.5 millimeter Allen wrench. I don't want to get that so tight that I'm going to damage the board. Just tight enough. I'm just holding it with my finger to see if it's spinning, and none of these are spinning. They're really seating well into the countersink that we just did. Okay, now we're ready. Doesn't it look good? It's a little dusty. Thread the wire through the other hole, and now I think that'll stay put while I get that. Oh, perfect. I'll tighten this back one first. What's nice about a 3-point leveling system is you set the back and kind of forget about it. And that back ends up being the standard or the height at which you'll level the front. And then if you get them relatively perfect with the height at the back, then if there's any up or down movement you need to go from side to side, it'll pivot on that center thumb screw and be a lot easier to adjust. So there you go. Of course, I'd plug my wires in. That is the new bed leveling system. It's the bed level upgrade, the heated bed leveling upgrade for the Printrbot Plus. And we will release one for the LC as well, and one for the Junior later.